The Sports Town Podcast.
Hey guys, it's JJ Peters. Thanks so much for listening. I can't thank you guys enough. Whether you're listening on the audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many others, we can't thank you enough. Also, don't forget, if you're listening on that form, don't forget to rate the podcast. It'd help us extremely if you guys were able to rate the podcast. And again, thanks again for listening. And of course, if you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe if you have not. Also, like, and don't forget to hit the bell for notifications so that you'll be updated when we release new videos. All right, big thanks to the guys at the Fairway Heaters Talking Golf podcast. We talked about the U.S. Open, about the rivalry between Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau. We also talked about why Ricky Fowler is struggling, all that good stuff. Don't forget to check their podcast out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. You can also follow them on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Fairway Heaters Talking Golf podcast. Also, don't forget to rate their podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And then as well, big thanks to Nicely from the Ball Fake podcast. We talked more about the NBA playoffs. I know we took a break from last week, but we're back at it. We'll be talking about the NBA playoffs, well, until at least the NBA draft or in the NBA finals, which I think the draft is a week after the NBA finals. So again, that conversation was great and you will love it. And again, don't forget to check his podcast out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and others. And you can also check out it on YouTube as well. And then, of course, as always, we have the Sports Lightning Round, questions from Instagram, highlight of the week, poll question, and much more. Also, again, if you're interested in merch for the STP pod, don't forget to check that out. Hit me on Instagram or somewhere like that, or even email me at sportstownpodcast@gmail.com. And you can also write in the comment section, want STP merch. Under further ado, let's get started. And now, on to the highlight of the week.
Here for LA, Leonard, 7 to shoot. Kawhi makes his move. Oh, wow! A major Kawhi light! Oh my goodness! Put a frame on that poster!
What a dunk that was from the Claw. As Ian Eagle would put it, a Kawhi light. Kawhi Leonard might have just ended Derek Favors' career. What a game that was, and the Clippers knotted up the series at 2 games apiece at that time. However, Kawhi Leonard is probably done for the rest of the season and maybe even rest of the series and maybe even next series if they make it to the conference finals. The Clippers would also take Game 5, or they took Game 4, 118-103, and took Game 5, 119-111, thanks to Paul George's 31 points and 16 rebounds. That series is going to be very interesting to watch to see what happens in Game 6 and 7. They will meet the winner of the winner will meet the Phoenix Suns. Veteran broadcaster Ian Eagle from TNT was on the call. All right, it's time for our weekly poll question. Again, you can vote on Instagram and Facebook at sportstown_podcast or on Twitter at sportstownpod. Again, this week we have 2 poll questions. Most likely we'll be going to 2 poll questions from now on. But this week's poll question was, the first one was, do you like the new Madden cover for this year's edition? Well, right now it's currently a tie at 50%, which, to be honest with you, I'm kind of surprised they went 2, but originally I thought Derrick Henry was going to be on the cover, but that was not the case, and it's Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. And then the second question is, should have LaMelo Ball won, or do you agree with LaMelo Ball winning the Rookie of the Year despite missing 21 games? 100% of you, or not 100%, but overwhelmingly you guys said no, which I would agree with you. I think Anthony Edwards should have won it because he was healthy throughout the whole season. All right, again, thanks for voting. You can vote on Instagram at Facebook at sports_podcast or on Twitter at sportsdownpod. And now on to the Sports Lightning Round, your biggest sports stories from this week. The 2-time Cy Young Award winner, Jacob deGrom, had to leave the game early versus the red-hot Cubs on Wednesday. The 2-time Cy Young Award winner has been dealing with a shoulder strain. deGrom was having a great game on Wednesday before being pulled. He struck out 9 batters and did not allow any hits or walks. Despite New York pulling their pitcher, the Mets would stun the Cubs 6-3. The MVP candidate was replaced by reliever Sean Reed Foley in the third inning. After the game, DeGrom stated, "I felt good warming up. Felt really good in the first and second inning. Then in the third, my shoulder was sore. This is getting old. I want to be out there competing and coming out of these games with this little. Hopefully this turns out to be nothing." They didn't want to turn anything in serious. This season, Jacob deGrom has had the league's best ERA at 0.54 and has had 11 strikeouts in just 67 innings. The Mets are currently 35-25 and are first place in the NL East. Portland Trailblazers guard Damian Lillard is the first player to commit to play for Team USA Basketball at the 2021 Olympics. Joining him will be Golden State Warriors forward Draymond Green and Boston Celtics forward Jason Tatum. The U.S. basketball team will look to win its fourth straight gold medal. However, players such as Lakers forward LeBron James and teammate Anthony Davis have decided not to play. Both players were dealing with injuries after the season, and the four-time league MVP just released his new movie Space Jam 2, A New Legacy. Miami Heat forward Jimmy Butler has also declined to play in this year's summer game to get more healthy again. San Antonio Spurs head coach Greg Popovich will coach Team USA, replacing Coach K. Warriors coach Steve Kerr will be his assistant, along with Hawks former head coach Lloyd Pierce and Villanova head coach Jay Wright. Last time Team USA played was in the FIBA World Cup and had a disappointing 7th place finish. USA had one of the worst finishes as they placed 7th, however, mostly because the big-time stars declined to play and focused on their new teammates. Training camp for Team USA begins on July 6th, and they will train at Las Vegas. 7-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady and 2018 League MVP Patrick Mahomes will both grace the cover of this year's Madden cover. It will be the first time since 2009 when two players will both be on the cover. Madden 10, Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald and Pittsburgh Steelers safety Troy Polamalu were the Madden cover athletes that year. After being on the cover, Brady told writers that if he ends up playing Madden 21 and can't be the Buccaneers, he will be the Chiefs. Brady stated, "I'm taking Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs. If I can't play with my team, I'm playing with them because they've got an explosive offense, and there's nothing that a quarterback likes more than an explosive offensive player." This will be Brady and Mahomes' second time they will be on the cover of Madden. The former Michigan product was on Madden 18, and Mahomes was just on Madden 20 2 years ago. Madden 22 will have many new features that include the franchise mode getting deeper, a new career mode that will be called United We Rise. The yard will also be updated, and the game will have more lifelike features, and the player movement will be the best it has ever been. Madden 22 is set to be released on August 20th. Tampa Bay Rays ace pitcher Tyler Glasnow is not too happy about the new pitching rules set by the MLB. Starting on June 21st, the MLB will crack down on any pitcher that are using any type of sticky substances that help them grip the ball. Glasnow stated about the new rule, "I just threw 80-something innings and you just told me I can't use anything? I have to change everything." He continued, "I truly believe 100% that's why I got hurt. I'm frustrated the MLB doesn't understand. You can't just tell us to use nothing. It's crazy." Before the injury, the Rays ace pitcher was having a great season. He had a 2.66 ERA and was 5-2 on the year. With the torn ACL or UCL injury to Glasnow, the young pitcher can maybe return in the postseason. He will not undergo Tommy John surgery so that he can maybe return later in the year. The 6'7" pitcher has been placed on the 60-day IL. Reigning NL Cy Young Award winner Trevor Bauer also commented about the new rules set by the league. They've knowingly swept this under the rug for years. Now they implement a knee-jerk reaction to shifting public perception. Hard to hear them talk about competitive integrity when they have no integrity to begin with. At the time of this recording, the Tampa Bay Rays are 43-26 and are first place in the AL East. They currently have a 1-game lead over their division rival, the Red Sox, for the division. Charlotte Hornets guard LaMelo Ball has won the 2020/2021 Rookie of the Year. The Hornets guard overwhelmingly defeated Timberwolves guard Anthony Edwards and Sacramento Kings guard Tyrese Halliburton. Ball received 84 first-place votes and is now the third Hornets player in franchise history to win the prestigious Rookie of the Year award. Larry Johnson was the last Charlotte player to win it. LaMelo Ball was also named the NBL Rookie of the Year in the Australian Basketball League last year. LaMelo Ball played for the Illawarra Hawks last season before declaring for the 2020 NBA Draft. The Hornets selected him with the 3rd overall pick. The newly crowned Rookie of the Year averaged 15 points per game, 6 assists per game, and close to 6 rebounds per game. The 19-year-old started 31 games this season for the Hornets and led the rookies in assists and steals. He was also the youngest player in NBA history to record a triple-double. Last season, the Hornets made the play-in game and finished with a record of 33 and 39. It was a very hectic day on Wednesday in the NBA. Both the Pelicans and Wizards parted way with their head coach. New Orleans fired Van Gundy after just one season. Last season, the Pelicans finished a disappointing 31-41 and missed the postseason for the 3rd consecutive year. For Washington, the Wizards and head coach Scott Brooks could not come to an agreement for a new contract. So therefore, the Wizards let go of head coach Scott Brooks. Brooks had been with Washington since the 2016-2017 season. Washington had a roller coaster of a season last year, but somehow finished with a 34-38 record and qualified for the play-in game. They went on to beat the Pacers to qualify for the playoffs. However, they were defeated by the Sixers in just 5 games. And to make it even more crazier, the Dallas Mavericks head coach Rick Carlisle decided to resign from his position the next day. Carlisle was hired to coach the Mavericks in 2008 and helped Dallas win their first and only championship in 2011. The Mavs now have to find a new president of basketball operation and a head coach. According to Mavs owner Mark Cuban, he plans to hire a president before he looks for a new head coach of Dallas. If the Mavs don't hire the right personnel, superstar Luka Doncic could be out of Dallas before you know it. Greg Olson's son is back home again. Former Bears, Panthers, and Seahawks tight end Greg Olson's son TJ has been released from Levin Children's Hospital in Charlotte, North Carolina. TJ was born with a congenital heart defect. During his young life, his heart required 4 surgeries and they had to put a pacemaker inside. However, the surgery went well and TJ rang the bell at the Children's Hospital in North Carolina. After the surgery went well, Greg Olson took to Twitter and shared a video of his son ringing the bell. Olson tweeted, "Ever since TJ was admitted into the ICU a little less than a month ago with heart failure, he would lay in bed at night and talk about ringing the bell." He continued, "We didn't know what the journey would look like or how long it would take, but he promised his mother and I that he was going to do it." Landon Castle of the number 4 for JD Motorsports has partnered with Voyager and will be paid in cryptocurrency. Yes, it's true. Castle will be the first driver in NASCAR to be paid all in cryptocurrency. The Xfinity driver debut in his new purple number 4 Chevy Camaro at the Tennessee Lottery 250 at Nashville Superspeedway. The race will air on NBC-SN and the event will begin at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. After signing the deal with Voyager, Castle stated, "It gives us the opportunity to have more on the car. There are small details that people don't or maybe don't realize. But with a small team just knowing what's going on the car and the team being able to take the energy that they might have focused on selling sponsors week to week or wrapping the car 10 different ways every week, now my guys can focus on the performance and make sure we're getting everything we can out of the car." The 32-year-old also told NASCAR.com, his account on Voyager, "You can say no pun intended, but it really is," he continued. "I check my Voyager account probably 100 times a day." Castle met the new owner of Voyager back in 2019 at a crypto conference, and they have been in touch ever since. According to multiple reports, they wanted to strike a deal last season, but because of COVID-19 pandemic, it fell through. Currently, Castle is in 18th place in the standings, just 6 spots outside the playoff field. And last but not least, the second-ranked female tennis player, Naomi Osaka, has decided to withdraw from this year's tournament at Wimbledon. Her agent stated on Thursday saying, "Naomi won't be playing Wimbledon this year. She's taking some personal time with friends and family. She will be ready for the Olympics." According to her team, the 23-year-old has been suffering from depression and anxiety. According to reports, she has been dealing with that since she won the U.S. Open back in 2018. That tournament was her first Grand Slam in her young career. Naomi Osaka currently has 4 Grand Slams titles, 2 at the U.S. Open and the other 2 at the Australian Open. Despite never getting past the 3rd round at Wimbledon, Osaka was the favorite to win alongside number 1 ranked female tennis player Ashley Barta. After withdrawing from the French Open, she also did not play at the Berlin WTA 5000 grass court tournament. However, her agent did state that she is excited to compete for the Olympics and have a chance to win a gold medal in front of her home fans. And now, on to our interviews with the Fairway Heaters Talking Golf podcast and the Ball Fake podcast. All right, I'm pleased to be joined by Connor Smith and Kevin Lewers of the Fairway Heaters podcast. How's it going, guys?
Doing well, man.
It's going good, man. I'm pumped for a great week of U.S. Open golf. And it's, by the way, it's the Fairway Heaters Talking Golf podcast. Sorry for the correction. Had to do it.
Oh, okay. No problem. That was my bad. So you guys, of course, are a golf podcast. But first, if you want to tell us more about your podcast, how it works, and if you like when you record and stuff like that, if you guys just want to give a rundown of that real quick.
Yeah, I'll give it out there. I mean, I know the listeners are just seething at the mouth, waiting to hear my take and prediction for this week's U.S. Open. But I would love to talk about a podcast that was derived in the middle of a pandemic. My Connor Smith, my co-host, is my cousin. He's 25 years old, recent graduate of Kansas. Fraternity guy, has a great perspective on what it's like being a young and up and coming professional in the landscape of America these days. And then you got me, a 37-year-old retired frat guy who went to Florida State University and has 2 kids, who's on his second marriage. And we just we both of us love golf. And that's really, we're passionate about it. We come from a family that everyone golfs, and that's really it, man. It's just 2 guys kind of talking about life and, talking about golf, and it's not in a stuffy way. We talk about it. That's like more of I think that all of us can more relate to, because golf can be a little stuffy, can be a little weird, goofy pants and fat ass, as Happy Gilmore said. But we're not that way at all. So.
Yeah. And, we're all about growing the game of golf over at our podcast. And I think there's a new wave and generation of people coming through, and we just want to do everything we can to help grow the game and show how the sport can be cool. It can be social. It can be fun for, everyone to get together and go hit the ball around. So, thanks for having us on, and let's talk some U.S. Open.
Yeah, no problem. Of course, the U.S. Open, one of the bigger majors. It's probably the second or third behind the Masters and Open Championship, but it's still a really big event. Let's just start off right away with it. Bryson DeChambeau won last year. Do you guys think he can get a repeat this year?
Nope. Phil Mickelson is going to win. That's my prediction. I think Bryson, and by the way, but you can't rank the majors, dude. It's a major championship. And that's the great thing. I mean, although I do personally think the Masters is number 1, but the other, and I think British and US Open are number 2 and 3, and then the PGA is last. But either way, that's the cool thing about golf, dude, is you've got basically 4 Super Bowls annually to watch, because each one is just historically has so much implications, so much, folklore, and the fans get behind it. It's awesome. But I think Bryson DeChambeau, can he repeat? No. I think Bryson DeChambeau is not playing good golf. I think this whole Brooks Koepka fake controversy that I think is maybe he's a little too focused on it. But I do believe Phil Mickelson is going to do something magical, historic, and we're all going to look back on this and cry when we're telling our grandkids about this. And he's going to win back-to-back majors and close out the Grand Slam.
Well, I think Bryson has all the tools in his bag to repeat at the U.S. Open, especially how far he hits the ball. And, we can really overpower courses. Do I think he can do it at Torrey Pines this week? Maybe not. It's hard to repeat. Especially with everything off the course right now. It's a lot of mental wear and tear on, worrying about the whole Brooks Koepka thing. And
well, I wouldn't say it's that much mental wear and tear. I mean, but go on. This is where we disagree often on the show.
Yeah, but it's gonna be difficult for him to do it. But I think he's gonna have a good week. I think he's gonna make a good run at it, maybe a top 15 finish if I had to put my money where my mouth is. But I don't think Torrey Pines is the course for Bryson this week.
Yeah, I mean, my dad is actually a fan of Bryson DeChambeau, but I was kind of wondering because last year he won it with it was pretty low score, I think, that he won last year at Wingfoot. But You just mentioned it, Kevin, kind of that rivalry between Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka. Why don't they like each other, and how did this rivalry become a rivalry, I guess?
Well, I mean, I followed golf over the years, and of course, I'm born in America, so when you follow the American golfers that are the next up and coming, you kind of, you always are paying attention to how they're progressing, what they're doing, who they're playing with, tournament by tournament, and Bryson is notoriously a slow player. So Brooks Koepka, not a traditionalist in terms of the overall, golf, how you approach the game of golf. And he's made several comments about how, he loses interest in a round. So anyway, so Brooks really doesn't favor that. And that's really, they were paired together in a round, and Brooks was kind of frustrated with DeChambeau's slow play. Anyway, personally, man, I think the whole Brooks DeChambeau, controversy is completely fake. I think it is all because the PGA Tour has announced a new compensation system where they're going to be ranking players' social media impact, and they're going to be paying them from 1 to 40. So, just kind of like we're collabing right now, or a social media group would collab with somebody. Why wouldn't you, as a player, collab with somebody and create a controversy? It's kind of like WWE, UFC, whatever. So I really don't buy into it. Maybe there's some minor dislike, but dude, these guys are millionaires. Brooks has got a hot wife. DeChambeau's probably got, a bunch of hotties on speed dial. They don't care, man. I think they're making millions of dollars, and they're like, heck, if we could create some sort of controversy, let's make more. And if I was both of their agents, I would definitely be having this conversation with knowing that, hey, there's a new compensation system. Let's get our guys a part of it. They're the two best young American players. PGA Tour is trying to connect with young people through social media. Let's do that. So that's my take. That's my fairway heater take.
Do you have a take on that, Connor?
About the rivalry?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm actually really polar opposite of what Kevin thinks on this. I genuinely think that there's a hatred between Brooks and Bryson. I think it's very, it's organically grown through this whole process of just them over the years of, Brooks accusing Bryson of maybe doing steroids, not really, maybe. And I think that everything Bryson does just annoys Brooks, and Brooks is kind of like that, in my mind, that schoolyard bully who just is annoyed with that new up and coming guy, and kind of taking the light away from him a little bit. And it was interesting. They allegedly the USGA asked Bryson to be paired with Brooks this week on Thursday and Friday, and he declined, apparently. I don't know if that's true or not, but if that is, that's pretty soft on Bryson's end.
But let me jump in there. I don't think the USGA ever, I may be wrong on this, has ever asked a player if they want to be paired together. They just do it. So I think that's bullshit. Sorry for the curse word, but I do not. USGA does not ask if they're going to pair people together. They don't say, "Hey, Tiger, do you want to play with Phil this week?" They just do it.
Yeah. I mean, that is also true. I don't see why the USGA would ask. Maybe because of the new generation of social media and everything, and maybe it would have caused a lot of drama. I don't know. But that being said, it'd be interesting. I really hope they get paired this weekend. I hope there's a situation where there's no way possible for any of them to decline. And I think the ratings would go up. It'd be really good for golf. And, I hope Sunday it's Brooks and Bryson coming out in 18.
Well, how about they just perform well and play together and naturally create a rivalry? How about that?
Yeah.
How about they both just step up and be men and play good golf like Tiger and Phil did for years?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. I mean, and, Brooks, I actually have the quote right here. It's like, Brooks is saying, I play my own game. I don't care who I'm paired with. Makes a difference to me. I think that's, Brooks wants to just play with whoever, win majors, and not show up in any other tournament. And that's Brooks.
Speaking of Brooks Koepka, now, Kevin, you mentioned you think Phil Mickelson's going to win it, but how well do you think Brooks Koepka does this week at the U.S. Open?
Man, it's so tough with him. He's obviously, it's noted and everybody's aware of how his injuries that he's been struggling with his knee. I mean, the Masters, he was, he couldn't even squat down to putt, but I was proud of him for sacking up and playing in a major. And then in the PGA, obviously he kind of shit the bed, playing with Phil, and really did not show up in that final group having a great chance. And the guy's 51 years old. Brooks Koepka, in the prime of his athletic career, let a 51-year-old man beat him. But after that round, after the PGA, and I listened to him talk, you kind of could sense that this guy laid it all on the line, and he was in a lot of pain, and it was a struggle for him. So the big question is how healthy is he? If the guy's healthy, I mean, he's one of the most dominant players out there. But if his knee is still balky and he's still, struggling with that, I can't see him for 4 days, not to mention the practice rounds and the driving range and all the stuff you do in a tournament, to be, engaged in terms of prepared to hit all shots at every time of the round. I think it's a little too much for him, man, with a knee injury like that. I think, Tiger is probably one of the only guys who's been able to just gut it out through injuries and win majors. And shoot, he did it with a broken leg. He won the U.S. Open. So I don't know, man. You like to see the big names compete. You like to see, as an American, you like to see the American golfers compete. But I don't know, man. It would be tough for me to see him show up this week, especially as hilly as Torrey Pines is. That's a tough walk.
Yeah. No, I agree with Kevin with the whole injury thing. I think I saw a video today of, I think someone caught him limping up some stairs, actually. I'm 95% sure that was from this week at Torrey Pines. But, I mean, put himself in contention at the PGA with an injury, which that's in itself is pretty incredible. He's going to do whatever it takes to be in contention for a major. So I don't see why what's really stopping him this week is, honestly, is there any lingering knee injury? Maybe. We don't know. I don't think he's going to necessarily disclose that until after the majors. But you can't ever count out Brooks Koepka in a major. And I just think he has that switch to really turn it on when he needs to. And it's going to be interesting to see how his knee holds up and how his injury holds up. But, he did it at the PGA a couple of weeks ago. I would love to see him do it again this week.
Yeah, he did it. He choked. Connor and I do not like. I do. I mean, I'm not a big Brooks Koepka fan. Connor is in love with him. So I always have to slide in any type of criticism on Brooks Koepka when I can.
It will definitely be interesting to see how it goes. And I'm kind of wondering this, but do you guys think there's a dark horse this year that could come out of nowhere and be in contention and maybe even possibly win this year's U.S. Open?
Well, I don't think he's necessarily a dark horse, but I wouldn't be surprised if Zalatoris did it. He's finished top 10 in every major he's competed in this year, if I'm correct. Finished second at the Masters. I mean, he better eat something before he starts playing. That guy weighs 110 pounds. I mean, unless Torrey Pines wins, blow him into the ocean, I don't see why he won't be in contention. I'm trying to think of another someone that's just.
I've got one. My dark horse is Phil Mickelson, because I don't think no one else is winning this tournament. Phil Mickelson is winning it. He's a legend. That's my dark horse is Phil. My prediction is Phil Mickelson, and my dark horse is Phil Mickelson.
Yeah, but maybe a guy, if you look at a guy like Victor Hovland, he's playing some good golf right now. I don't necessarily think he's a dark horse. I don't think anyone would be surprised if he won. But I think
How about Matt Jones? I'm going with Matt Jones, my dark horse. Matt Jones, Honda Classic winner. Is he even in the field? I'm going with Matt. I'm taking Matt Jones, my boy, Mike Jones.
Yeah, and you guys recently mentioned Victor Hovland. I feel like he's going to be a pretty good young up-and-coming golfer, similar to Will Zalatoris. And I remember when Will Zalatoris finished second at the Masters, I think he had more press than, he had a lot of press. Like, I was kind of surprised by how much press he got. So let's jump on to another golfer that didn't make this year's cut. He's probably my favorite golfer, Ricky Fowler. It seems like his game has completely gone south, except he had when he played at the PGA Champion, he had a decent finish. What do you think his problem is, and do you think there's a chance for him to actually win a major in his career?
Dude, I feel so bad that, like, Bryson, your dad's favorite golfer, and I kind of ripped him. And then Ricky Fowler, your favorite. I'm just like ripping apart your family because I'm about to just rip Ricky. I'm sorry. Although I did name my firstborn son Kevin Bryson Lures. So, and I did it actually kind of an homage to Bryson. Anyway, back to Ricky. So Ricky Fowler, Connor hit it right in the head. Too many sponsors. I mean, I think the guy is enjoying being Ricky Fowler. That's really it. I mean, his agent has done a phenomenal job. I mean, his agent, I would seriously hire him to do any type of legal work if we're to promote myself or anybody, because the guy took somebody who hasn't won a major, who's just kind of marketable, friendly, good-looking dude, and packaged all that up and sold it to numerous companies, Mercedes, Rocket Mortgage, God knows who else. And so Ricky, liked that fame. And then what happened? He got a ridiculously hot girlfriend who he married. She's like some pole vaulter that is, she's a 10. And I think he just kind of is like, you know what, man, being me is pretty good. And he's kind of I think he lost his edge a little bit. That's number one. And then the second thing with him is I think his swing mechanics. Yeah, he's gone through some big swing changes. And when he came out on tour, the big thing with him was, okay, this kid's powerful. He's young. He's compact. He's got a very explosive swing for a guy his size. But he's putting a tremendous amount of torque on his back. Is this swing going to be able to hold up, as he gets into his 30s? And is it going to be repeatable? And it wasn't. It hasn't been. So he's going through some big swing changes. And I think those swing changes, when you go through and you overhaul a swing, your swing, the way you play golf, that takes a couple of years. I mean, Tiger's gone through it. There's a lot of great. So I think Ricky will be back. I think he'll get that one major. I really do. I think he'll get one major, kind of like Sergio got his one major. And he'll kind of always just be that player that's hanging around tournaments. But that's my take on Rick. I think he's just a little fat and happy with life right now. Not literally, more figuratively. And I think he's on the way back up. And some of this stuff where he's not playing in majors, getting special exemptions, the PGA. I think that's if you're an athlete, a competitor, which if you're playing golf, you got to have some level of competitiveness in you. It's got to fire him up a little bit. And his hot wife's probably looking at him like, look, dude, like, why did I marry you? You're not even playing in the major. I mean, so there's got to be some motivation for him. But I think Ricky will be back. Yeah,
I think Ricky has every tool in the bag to. I mean, you've seen it so many times. He's been so close so many times. It's if you look at every golfer's career, a lot of, they go through downs. They go through ups and highs and lows. And right now he's going through a low. I think there's a lot of, I'm not a professional golfer, so I don't know how to cope with this stuff, but the distractions off the course I see him on a new commercial, I feel like every weekend on the PGA Tour. That's taken away from a lot of golf practice and preparation and stuff.
I'll close it out for you. Ricky is on the way back.
Yeah, and I feel like back, was it in 2014 or 2015, he finished, I want to say, in the top 5 in all the majors, which was pretty crazy. And I felt like that he was on the rise, and then just kind of nothing has really materialized for him. And I think, was it Nick Faldo that called him out and said maybe he should be on another, if he wasn't on like 5 commercials a week. So yeah, I definitely understand what you guys are saying. Let's go back to this year, are the people that are playing, or the golfers that are playing the US Open right now. Do you think there's a golfer that will do, or that is hot right now, but will really struggle this year?
That's hot right now and will really struggle. I mean, Phil Mickelson. I think Phil Mickelson is hot and he's going to struggle. Obviously, he's 51 years old. There's no way that he could keep this up. I mean, it's amazing. I hope he can. I think he, after he wins this week, and, I'm hired by all the major sports agencies and networks because I'm just like a Nostradamus of major championship predictions. I think Phil will just get fat again and just say, screw it, because like, this is, I gave it all I got. But in a more serious vein, I think there's some guys out there that have been playing well, like Jason Kokrak. I never pronounce his name right. He's been competing a lot in tournaments, and I think that he's a guy that is definitely going to fall off. I mean, he's been in the top 10 in the last 3 or 4 tournaments, or top 15 or something like that. So he kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, he's a consistent player, but I don't think he's going to be able to keep it up. But as far as like big name guys, I mean, I don't really see anybody. There's nobody really blowing the doors off the tour this year, in terms of you can point to, but then say, hey, like, wow, what a year he's having. In my opinion, Jordan Spieth's playing well, but I don't think he's going to fade. I think he's on the way back. So yeah, there's nobody really that. I mean, I know I keep saying Phil Mickelson, but that's kind of what I think he's my A, B, and C answer right now for everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hottest name right now on tour, the hottest guy is probably Zalatoris, if you really want to look at it like that.
Hot.
I don't see why he can't keep this up. But like I said, like a couple minutes ago, everyone goes to their lows, and I think, his name's going to kind of fade a little bit if he doesn't win. I think he needs a win, and I don't necessarily think he can keep placing top 10 in like all these major tournaments all the time. And I think once that starts happening, he's kind of going to fade off a little bit. Maybe people are going to start, they're just going to remember him as the guy who played in his first Masters and almost won it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's a great name to throw out there because, he's young and dumb. Let's call it that way. Young and dumb. That's when you're 22 years old, 21 years old, you don't really have a lot of life experience. You haven't really made a lot of mistakes. You really haven't had a lot of fuck ups. And when you make mistakes in life, you really kind of like cloud your head with maybe some regret, some bad thoughts, some bad swing thoughts. And golf is a mental game, man. You got to be confident. And I saw a guy out there at the Masters that looked just like, he was unconscious. Like they had nothing. He was just young and dumb. Like, I'm playing the Masters, hitting great shots, making putts. But, as soon as to give him more time, like I'm not even talking a lot of time, the fame, the fortune, the pressure. And then when he wakes up and looks himself in the mirror and realizes, oh man, I haven't won anything. I haven't won a major. I haven't won a tournament. I barely have my tour card. That's when I think that guy's going to have some problems because, yeah, I mean, I like his golf swing. I like his putting stroke, but I don't like his putting stroke. So I think the guy's going to have some problems. So yeah, Connor, that was a really good one. I wish I would have thought of that, but that's why you're a smarter golf analyst than me.
What about a guy like Hideki Matsuyama? He won the Masters about a month or 2 months ago. What do you think he'll do this year or at this tournament?
Yeah, I think he'll lose to Phil Mickelson. I think that's what's going to happen ultimately. But Hideki, like he's a machine, dude. I mean, that guy was basically touted the Michael Jordan of golf coming out of Japan. I mean, Tiger Woods was was commenting on him when he was very young, like, hey, watch out for this guy. This guy is going to be somebody who's going to be on the tour and somebody you have to contend with for years. So Hideki is like a god. I mean, when he won the Masters this year, for God's sake, they posted in the newspaper, the country newspaper, because I mean, probably in Japan, newspapers are still relevant. Every hole charted out of every shot he hit on like a full page ad. And I mean, so he is like they gave him like the equivalent of the Congressional Medal of Honor for winning the Masters. I mean, I think Hideki, in my opinion, is like kind of just like he's achieved his Super Bowl. Like he got the one Super Bowl that Dan Marino got or never got. He got the one championship that Allen Iverson and Charles Barkley never got. I think that's it for him, man. I think we're not really going to hear much from Hideki anymore. And then there's going to be like one tournament he rolls out and he's like 260 and just fat and just like hitting. He's going to be the guy playing in the Masters when he's like 50 and he's going to shoot like 93.
Do you have anything with that, Connor?
I think Kevin covered that one pretty well. I mean, I don't even, did he even answer your question?
I don't even think I did. I don't even think I did.
To answer your question, I think he makes the cut this week, but just because I mean he's got every God gift talent, in the world, he'll make the cut. But I just don't see him playing that well. I mean, I can't remember the last tournament he's played in since the Masters. I mean, I know he went back to Japan and everything, so I don't really know what his golf game's like right now.
I think he played a Colonial. He did play well in a tournament. I can't remember what tournament it was, but he did play well. He did look like he gained a little weight. I mean, just to back up, but but he's going to be good for a few years. So I don't think he'll win again. Or win this tournament, or he will make the cut. I agree with you, Connor, on that.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy the way he won, because after he won, I think he went to back to Japan with his green jacket on, which I thought was kind of funny. Like he went on the airplane with his green jacket.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. All right. So again, I'm probably going to bet this week on the U.S. Open. Do you guys have any advice for me on who to bet for?
Well, Kevin's going to say Phil Mickelson. Yes, I think we got that one covered. But yeah, I got something for you here. I think put some money. Matthew Wolff hasn't been playing well this year, but that's always a good value pick because, he's been playing awful, but that Matthew Wolff can come out and he can perform and he can play some good golf, major championship level golf. And then I think a guy that, everyone's talking about Phil, Xander, Brooks, Bryson, but a lot of people are forgetting about, one of the best golfers in the world, and that's Justin Thomas. I forget what his value is right now, what his odds are, but I think they're pretty good for Justin Thomas standards. And I think that a guy like him can really make something shake this weekend out at Torrey Pines.
Yeah, I love that Justin Thomas pick because he won the Players this year, and Connor and I were watching that tournament, and I was like, man, this guy, after he won that tournament in like commanding fashion, I was like, this guy's winning a major this year. So I think JT is a great pick. I like Louis Oosthuizen. He's a major champion, always contends. You'll get some great odds on him. I always pick Louis and going into any major because he's an under the radar guy and he's won a major and he plays great golf. He's mentally tough. He's always right there. That's a good pick. And you always go with the standards. Jordan Spieth, he's playing such great golf, and every time the guy always has me shaking my head, going, "God, this guy is just—he's got that intangible of that great golfers have." So you can never put it past him to show up big in the U.S. Open because he's won. He's won. How many U.S.? I think he's won 2 U.S. Opens. And then obviously, the god of golf himself, Phil Mickelson. I mean, it's a slam dunk. That you can take that to the bank, tell your wife you're buying a new house, and let's go, Phil, all the way.
All right, again, thanks for coming on, guys. Unfortunately, I got to cut this interview short, but you guys told me our can you guys, or where do you guys all at on social media? Is it Instagram, Twitter, or?
Yeah, so we're all over. We're on Twitter at Fairway Heaters, Instagram at Fairway Heaters, and our TikTok is at Fairway Heaters Golf. And then YouTube is Fairway Heaters Talking Golf Podcast. So, we're on the major platforms, and, we're
pumping content, and we've got some shows coming out. We release episodes like every other week, Connor?
Right now we're doing
our schedule right now.
Yeah, right now we're doing every other week. So we drop on Wednesdays, and if you guys want some lighthearted, unfiltered golf talk, tune on in.
All right. Again, thanks for coming on, guys. I'll definitely check the podcast out. And again, thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Go Phil. Thanks, man. Bye.
All righty. I am pleased to be joined by Nicely from the Ball Fake podcast. How's it going?
How you doing, man? Not too bad. And yourself?
I am doing great. Thanks for coming on late notice. Let's first start off to talk more about your podcast. I saw it yesterday and I had to check it out. So can you tell us more about your podcast, what you've been doing, how long you've been doing it, stuff like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I created the Ball Fake podcast. I came up with the idea last summer before, after the entire COVID-19 thing happened. I started it with my co-host, Greg King. He's actually a student at the University of Evansville. For you guys that don't know, that's the team that beat Kentucky a few years back on the road and everything. But, I got inspired actually by watching the No Chill podcast with Gilbert Arenas. I'm a big Gilbert Arenas type of guy. I mean, I love everything about him, his personality and everything. Me seeing him talk about basketball on a daily basis with his podcast, I just got inspired to start my own. So that's kind of basically the backstory for this entire setup.
Yeah, it's so cool, especially to hear so many people's, I've interviewed a lot of people over the last few months, and it's interesting to see how they started it. And it's really cool, especially, I think, since the pandemic, podcasts have gotten so much bigger, people starting their own podcasts, which is awesome, just more, stuff to listen to. So, all right, let's start off with it. Crazy. The playoffs have been super crazy, especially on Wednesday night. Now, this recording right now that we're doing is on Thursday morning. So the news that came on Wednesday, let's first start off with Chris Paul. Do you think he'll be ready for the game one of the Western Conference Finals? I
mean, we can only hope so. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, ESPN, nobody like Shams or Woj have came out with any updates about how long he'll be out for. Typically when guys get COVID, they'll be out for 10 to 14 days. But I did find out yesterday that he could possibly come back on time if he's able to get 2 negative COVID-19 tests and then something else also going along with that. So, I mean, we really don't know, but I do feel like this Phoenix Suns roster is good enough to really compete with either the Utah Jazz or the Los Angeles Clippers, even without a Chris Paul, because we saw what they did in the bubble. They went 8-0 despite them missing the postseason last year. And then Devin Booker's been playing some of the best basketball he's played in his entire career. The only guys that I'm going to be a little bit worried about is DeAndre Ayton, because we know what Chris Paul does for this guy offensively. I mean, DeAndre Ayton, he's doing a great job of, rim running and, just being in the right spots at the right time. Chris Paul, being the analyzer that he is, he does a good job of getting him the basketball and putting this Phoenix Suns roster in a good position to win games. So, I mean, losing Chris Paul is definitely going to be a very big factor in this entire series, regardless if they play Utah or LA. But, I mean, what are your thoughts on it, JJ?
I think the Suns are still really good without Chris Paul, especially with how good Devin Booker has been. DeAndre Ayton has been great as well. Jay Crowder has been very good, especially when he was able to shut down LeBron in the first round. He looked excellent again against Denver.
Let's pump the brakes with the shutdown. All right, let's pump the brakes with that. It was an ankle injury. This is a guy that is an All NBA caliber player, and he was in MVP contention in the first two of three polls. So let's just relax with the shutdown word. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he would. The correct term is limiting LeBron, especially in the first round. I would say he did somewhat of that, or I guess he did that against Denver as well. But I feel like a lot of people kind of forget about Jay Crowder. He was really good back in the day when he was in Boston. And then I think people I guess he was in Utah as well, but I feel like people kind of forgot how good he was. But I would definitely say that Suns still have a shot against the Jazz or the Clippers. Speaking of the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard out, but yet they're still able to take care of the Jazz in Game 5. You said earlier before the recording that you thought the Clippers were still going to win. Do you think they can take the series? And were you shocked that they won Game 5?
I was not shocked. The thing about Paul George is, like, he's, for somebody who's considered a star player or superstar in this league, he's very much a wild card as well. You don't know if you're going to get the 35-point Paul George, who's shooting 10 of 22 from the field, knocking down 5 3-pointers, something like that. Or you're going to get the Paul George that scores 15 points and goes 4 for 17, and it can't hit a grape in the ocean. But I did feel like, with him coming off a phenomenal regular season, I mean, he was just named to All-NBA second team, I believe. And given the fact that, he's got the right coach in the right system, and, some decent players around him, Reggie Jackson has stepped up, Luke Kennard has shown that he can play in the postseason with this group and everything. And then, what you're getting from the rest of these guys in Terrence Mann, and, their other role players. I felt like Paul George was the one factor that was going to decide whether they come out with a win or a loss. And then it definitely helped that, they really limited Donovan Mitchell last night. Everybody talked about him being an all-NBA snub. He certainly didn't look like it last night. So, I mean, with all that being said, I wasn't really too surprised. I mean, we all know Paul George, he's very capable of these type of nights. The only thing is he's just very inconsistent.
Yeah, I feel like he's been all right this postseason. I think he's just been inconsistent, I would say. We all know that, playoff P, as they like to call, a lot of times they would call him pandemic P, or, he chokes a decent amount of times, but I think in Game 5 he certainly stepped up. He did what he was supposed to do, and I feel like if he can do that in Game 6, man, I think the Clippers can win this series, and I don't think Kawhi is coming back in the second round, even if they have a Game 7. I don't even know if he's coming back in the Western Conference Finals. We haven't really gotten a whole lot of updates. I know Sham Sharonia from The Athletic said that most likely he's out indefinitely. Do you think he makes a comeback in the conference finals? I
mean, we certainly hope so, you know what I mean? I mean, typically dealing with a knee injury like that, the knee sprain, it takes about, if it's a grade 1 or grade 2 knee sprain, it typically takes about 2 to 4 weeks to heal. But if he has to get surgery on it, things like that, that typically makes the recovery a little bit longer. You're looking at from at least 4 to 6 months in recovery. So, I mean, it's just kind of hard to tell, given the fact that we have not much information on, what exactly is going on with Kawhi Leonard. A lot of people thought he tore his ACL. That doesn't seem to be the case, but it does seem very concerning for the Los Angeles Clippers. And, this is somebody who's been playing phenomenal basketball. I mean, in the postseason, he's first in points, he's first in PER, second in rebounds per game, and he's third in field goal percentage. So, I mean, you definitely want Kawhi Leonard to be a guy that suits up for your ball club and will possibly help you win the NBA Finals ultimately.
Yeah, as a Kawhi Leonard fan, it was very disappointing to see what happened in Game 4, but I thought it was just, it was fine. He took himself out after with, 4.5 minutes left to go in Game 4, I want to say.
Yeah, it was 5 minutes left.
It seemed like he would be, it seemed like he would be fine, but at the same time, we know he's had problems with that type of injury, so hopefully he comes back and better than ever. Let's go on to the coaches' firings that happened on Wednesday as well. Scott Brooks was let go by the Wizards. I wasn't super shocked by that. What did you think about that?
Well, I think they're a step closer to getting Westbrook out of there, hopefully. I mean, because we know Scott Brooks and Westbrook's connection as, a player and a coach. I mean, Scott Brooks just came out a few months ago stating that he feels like Russell Westbrook is the second best point guard all time. I mean, obviously I don't agree with that, but, it just kind of depends on what these two do with Westbrook and Bradley Beal. I mean, I don't really know what head coach can really come in and fix them, because I know this is a team that they struggle defensively and their offense is pretty lackluster. They didn't run many sets with, Scott Brooks in the organization and everything. Russell Westbrook was very inefficient. His style of play kind of hurt their spacing to a certain degree. But, I mean, I guess, guys like Chauncey Billups is somebody that you definitely want to be looking at if you're the Washington Wizards.
Yeah, and I feel like Bradley Beal is probably out the door as well. I don't know if he's a free agent this year or he gets traded. I think he's got an option on his contract or something like that. So we'll see what happens there. Let's jump on to the Pelicans firing Stan Van Gundy. I was a little shocked that they fired him after just one season. I'm not a super huge fan of Van Gundy, but what did you think about that firing?
I mean, he didn't show us anything that was spectacular. You know what I mean? I mean, Lonzo Ball improved his 3-point percentage. He does need to improve in other aspects of his game, especially if it was ball handling and, just being able to create off the dribble. And then you have Zion Williamson, who's quote unquote an all-star snub, alongside, a decent amount of young youthful players that, will be very beneficial for this offense. But it didn't seem like Stan Van Gundy's offense really worked for them in the entire year. I mean, a lot of times the Pelicans, they would be doing good in a game. They would be up 20 points, and then all of a sudden give up a 30-10 run. And then, they end up losing the game ultimately. And then on top of that, I mean, obviously this is a players' league. Stan Van Gundy, he doesn't, strike me as the type of guy that really builds great relationships with players. I mean, just ask Dwight Howard, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that Stan Van Gundy was a guy for New Orleans, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Van Gundy isn't. I feel like he was better earlier in his coaching career, and now lately he just seems like everywhere he goes, he gets fired. He got let go in Detroit. Now he gets let go in New Orleans. And with that such a talented roster, I felt like he could have done better. And I feel like that job's going to be very. I think there's going to be a lot of coaches that are going to want that job. I think what Freddie Coleman on ESPN on Wednesday night was saying that most likely there's going to be a huge line at the door waiting to be a head coach there because of so many, because of Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram. If Lonzo Ball stays, that job is very enticing for a lot of coaches who want to be head coaches in the NBA. Let's jump on to the Hawks and Sixers. What a comeback from Atlanta. Were you shocked that they made such a comeback?
I'm not shocked that Atlanta made a comeback. I'm more so shocked that Philadelphia gave up a 26-point lead. Like, essentially, it seems like Joel Embiid can play 3 quarters for you, and then in the fourth quarter, he's just gassed. Like, I think that has to do with him not playing heavy minutes and back-to-backs in the regular season. That's kind of starting to catch up with him. And I don't know what's gotten into Tobias Harris. I mean, this is a guy getting max money. He's getting paid like a superstar. And I think he had 4 points in the second half. And then Ben Simmons, I think that Hacker Simmons thing is really starting to mess with him mentally. I mean, this is somebody that, he's just as good as Giannis in transition. And with all that being said, he doesn't really seem like he's been as aggressive because he kind of seems like he wants to avoid the free throw line and everything. So I feel like all that coming into play is kind of, having a negative effect on their offense, and then it just tends to translate to their defense.
Speaking of Ben Simmons, do you think he'll be traded?
Absolutely. I don't think so. I just can't see it. I can't see it. I mean, I know Elton Brand, I don't know what's up with him. He's a great GM, but he seems to have like a ton of fetishes with like big man. You know what I mean? Like paying Al Horford and guys like that, big time money. But I can't see them giving up on it right now. You know what I mean? Like, I just can't see it, especially for Damian Lillard. Like, I don't think that I don't know. I feel like Portland, they would want a little bit more than just Ben Simmons, like similar to like the James Harden trade packages when you're throwing in Ben Simmons and maybe a first round pick, things of that nature.
So let's jump on to the Bucks and Nets. Nets are up 3-2. I'm assuming by the time this comes out, the series will probably be over. But do you think there's any hope for the Bucks?
I mean, given the fact that they'll be heading home for Game 6, I think they can pull off a win. Simply because I don't think Brooklyn is good enough to win a game on the road, especially when they're shorthanded a little bit. No Kyrie Irving, and then you're dealing with a banged-up James Harden. I mean, he shot 1 for 10 from the field last game, 0 for 8 from 3. So he's going to be minimized. And I think that the Mike Budenholzer, he's listening to all the critics and everybody talking about his lack of adjustments. I think he's going to make the proper adjustments. But really, Milwaukee just needs to stick to their game plan. It seems like in the first 24 minutes of the game in the first half, they do a great job of that. And then in the second half, they get very complacent. And it starts with Giannis shooting 3-pointers in transition, which I have no problem with. But you kind of have to get back to your bread and butter, especially when your team goes a little over 3 minutes without scoring a basketball, because, that tends to lead to, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday trying to force something and create something offensively. And then it tends to be bad basketball. And then that ends up hurting you defensively, especially going up against a great offensive team in the Brooklyn Nets. So
do you think if the Nets end up winning this series, do you think the Bucks will blow everything? Or do you think they'll just blow their team?
I mean, I don't think so. I think the Milwaukee Bucks, they have enough talent to compete in either conference. It's just I've been saying this for about 2 years now. Mike Budenholzer, he's not a championship coach. He fails to make in-game adjustments, and whenever he does, it's very too late. It's about 2-3 games late in the series when he tries to make those type of adjustments. I mean, I don't understand why they force Giannis to play on the perimeter so much, given the fact that he's one of the best inside presence in the NBA. I mean, if you just mix it up a little bit with having him play on the baseline, short corner, mid post, and then have him play in transition, semi-transition, bringing the ball up the floor. I think this Milwaukee Bucks team has a great shot at beating anybody on a nightly basis. But Mike Budenholzer, he doesn't seem to be the coach that is going to be able to get the best out of all of his players individually and as a team overall.
And I think the Nets are going to end up probably winning the whole thing because they're so talented. But if the Hawks end up winning the series and the Nets end up winning their series, do you think the Nets could sweep the Hawks, or do you think the Hawks could actually give the Nets a run for their money?
I think the Hawks can give the Nets a run for their money. I mean, essentially these two offenses, I don't want to say they're the same, but both of them can produce, especially, Brooklyn Nets with Kevin Durant. I mean, this is a guy that's susceptible to go off for a 40-point night on any given night. When it comes to Brooklyn, it's really more so about the role players. Like, will Blake Griffin step up and, dive on the floor for loose balls like he did in the first round against the Boston Celtics? Can Jeff Green be productive on both sides of the basketball? I don't think that he, has another game where he makes 7 3-pointers out of 8 attempts. But if Brooklyn can, get some help from their role players and everything, like guys like Bruce Brown and Joe Harris, I think they have a legitimate shot of, beating this team. But I think the series goes no less than 6 games, in all honesty.
Yeah, I just think Brooklyn is so good right now. Even without Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant and James Harden are so good. And, of course, Durant dropped 49 points in Game 5. I'm not sure exactly how long Kyrie Irving is out, but do you think if he's out for a substantial amount of time, do you think the Nets can still win games?
It's tough because obviously, if they surpass, the Milwaukee Bucks and end up playing in the Eastern Conference Finals, if they're playing against a team like the Atlanta Hawks who, can put up great offensive numbers similar to them, I think it's going to be a lot tougher because one thing that the Brooklyn Nets have struggled with all year is their defense. And obviously, they've done a lot better and been able to, really contribute on that side of the basketball in the second half of the season, especially in the postseason. But I don't know, man. I mean, if they're playing a team like the Philadelphia 76ers, they have a good shot, even without Kyrie Irving. But when it comes to Atlanta, I just feel like Atlanta just has that it factor. And, Trae Young being who he is, I don't think that Brooklyn has anybody on that side of the court that can, really minimize him like, the Philadelphia 76ers do with Ben Simmons. So, I mean, it's really more so a toss-up. And you're probably just going to hope that, this team makes less than 5 or 6 3-pointers and, you have a great night offensively.
Yeah, and I think – the Nets are just so good, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. This has definitely been a wild playoffs, and it's definitely been super exciting. So at the end of the day, who do you think plays in the finals, and what team do you have winning it all?
See, the team I had winning it all was the Lakers. And obviously, they were coming off of a championship in the bubble. But, they were derailed with injuries all year. And then you have to look at it. That roster just wasn't very good. I mean, there was a bunch of complementary players that didn't complement each other. Dennis Schroeder can't be your third option on a championship team. They lack scoring. And, their shooters just didn't pan out in the postseason. And then defensively, they weren't all that great either. But it's so hard to tell because you don't know who's going to suit up on a night-in, night-out basis. I mean, we still got to wait on the news with CP3 and the Suns. We got to wait on the news for Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers. And then, I don't know what Mike Conley's dealing with within his injury. I haven't really looked too much into that. But if I was just going off pure guts, I would say probably the Phoenix Suns facing the Brooklyn Nets, man, probably, in all honesty.
Yeah, I think that's the most safest pick. And I think if the Clippers had Kawhi Leonard, I would be all in on the Clippers. But I'm still worried that somehow the Jazz are going to take this series in 7 games. But I definitely think it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens. But I think Brooklyn is the most talented team. And it would definitely be exciting, though, to see Chris Paul finally play in the NBA Finals. We're very close to ending the interview, and thanks for coming on nicely. I did have one question about Utah. If Utah loses this series, are they going to look back and say, man, we had a chance to win without Kawhi Leonard? LeBron's no longer in the playoffs. Are they going to look back, and are they really going to regret what happened this postseason?
I mean, obviously you want to come out with a win as a competitor, but I don't necessarily think that they would look back and have much regret. I mean, you know, they were the best team in the NBA record-wise. You made a deep postseason run if, you know, you make it to the Western Conference Finals, but I don't think this is a situation where they should necessarily, you know, walk with their heads down. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just don't feel like Donovan Mitchell can do it on his own. Like, guys like Bogdanovich have to definitely step up. Rudy Gobert, he has to be the defensive player of the year that everybody voted him to be. And, you know, you have to get production from Royce O'Neal on both sides of the basketball. And then obviously Joe Ingles and Jordan Clarkson, they have to do what they do offensively.
Yeah, definitely 100% agreed. Before we end the interview, you talked about your podcast earlier, but you have anything in store for the future?
Yeah, we obviously just joined the Off the Ball Network. I'm looking forward to, you know, working with a ton of these other guys who have podcasts and, you know, radio shows as well. But for our personal podcast, we're starting to get more and more interviews with college basketball players, high major D1 basketball players. We just finished the interview with Clemson guard Alex Hemingway. Make sure you guys check that out on our YouTube channel. We're also available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And we're getting ready to, you know, interview Christian Lander of Indiana University. And we're also trying to get in DeAndre Williams of Memphis. And we're very close to getting Quentin Grimes, an NBA draft prospect, on our podcast as well. So we got some big things coming for you guys in the next couple of weeks.
All right. Thanks again for coming on nicely. Can we find your podcast on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff?
Yeah, we're definitely available on all three of those platforms: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Once again, you can follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and our primary source is YouTube. So make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe on all of our YouTube videos as well.
All right. Thanks for coming on nicely. It was great. I love talking about the NBA, especially during the most hectic time right now. That's the NBA playoffs. So again, thanks for coming on, and don't forget to check out the Ball Fake podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Down podcast, or the STP pod for short. If you want to check out more videos of the Sports Down podcast, click on the left. If you want to subscribe to the channel, click on the right.